Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer. Welcome to this course. Today I'm going to review the fundamentals of business English letter. During the last few years, there has been a great change on business correspondence. Therefore, the learning objective of today is first to be familiar with the layout of business English letter, and second is basic structure of business English letter, and third, be able to write the beginning and closing of a business English letter. Now, first come to letter layout. Hi Stella, have you ever written or read any business letter before?
Yes, in our foreign trade practice course, I have read and tried to write business letter.
Great! Please look at this letter. What can you notice about the layout of the paragraphs?
I can see the paragraphs are separated by a line, and each one starts at the left-handed margin.
Is there any punctuation in the addresses?
In this style of letter layout, no punctuation is used in addresses or after dear and yours.
Very good. You observe very carefully. There are many ways to lay out a business letter. The letter above is an example of a modern way called block style. Please notice, the name and address of the receiver are at the top on the left. The date is on the right. There is no punctuation in the address or after yours faithfully or sincerely or dear. The paragraphs start at the margin and there are line spaces between them. The writer's name and title are under the signature. You will also see some other ways of laying out business letters. This is the indented style with letterhead in the middle and the date on the right-hand side. Each line of the letterhead and the inside name and address should be indented 1 to 2 spaces. Each paragraph should be indented 4 to 5 spaces. This is the modified block style, but block style is the most useful to learn because it is accepted everywhere. Now come to the structure. Stella, here's another letter. Can you find the difference between the two letters?
Why one letter ends faithfully and the other ends sincerely, why the subject heading is used and why PP is placed in front of the writer in capitals?
Yes, differences are the first letter opens Dear Sirs and ends Yours faithfully. The second letter opens Dear Mr. and ends Yours sincerely. The second letter has a subject heading. The first letter has none. The second letter is not signed by the writer, and so PP is used. Why do these letters write in different way? It is related to the structure of business letter. There are 14 parts in a business letter, which are letterhead, reference number, date, inside name and address, attention line, salutation, subject line, body, complimentary clause, signature, the reference notation, enclosure, carbon copy notation, postscript. The date, salutation, and complimentary clause and the subject heading are the points we will talk more clearly. First, the date. Be careful with the date. In Britain, they write the day first, but in the United States, they write the month first. This means that it's the 12th of June in Britain, but in the United States, it is the 6th of December. Write the date like this. And then everybody will know what you mean. Remember to use a capital letter for month. You do not have to write TH, RD, ND, or ST after the day. How would you write these dates in a letter? Now let's look at the salutation and complimentary clause. Salutation is to open a letter. Here are some ways to open a letter. Dear Sirs is used if the letter is sent to a company. Dear Sir is used if the letter is sent to a man if you do not know his name. Dear Madam is used if the letter is sent to a woman if you do not know her name. Dear Mr. Smith is used if the letter is sent to a man. Dear Mrs. Smith is used if the letter is sent to a married woman. Dear Mrs. Smith is used if the letter is to a married or unmarried woman. Dear John is used if the letter is to a friend or someone you know well. It is wrong to open a letter with Dear Mr. John or Dear Mr. John Smith. Remember, a Dear Mr., Mrs., Miss opening should be followed by the family name. The way you close a letter depends on how you open it. You start with Dear Sirs, Dear Sir, or Dear Madam. You end with Yours faithfully. You start with Dear Mr., Mrs., Miss, Ms. Smith. You end with Yours sincerely. You start with Dear John. You end with Best wishes. A general rule for closing a letter is, if you know the name, you end sincerely. If you do not know the name, you end faithfully. Now, Stella, do you know how to join these salutations to the right closing? Here is an exercise. Can you do it?
Yes. If we start Dear Mr. Wilson, Dear Mr. Hamsuchi, Dear Mr. Gauntz, we end with Yours sincerely. If we start with Dear Madam, Dear Sirs, we end with Yours faithfully. If we start with Dear Susanna, Dear David, we end with Best wishes.
That's right. You did a good job. Here is a letter with some mistakes. Let's find them together. The first mistake is the confusing style. We can choose the block style. The second mistake is the date. And the third mistake is the opening and closing. The fourth mistake is the writing of date. And the fifth mistake is the position, which should be after the name.
Why are subject headings sometimes used in business letters?
Good question. Please look at the letter to Jakarta Furnishings again. It has a heading, Obvious Furniture. This says what the letter is about. It will help Mr. Basuki give the letter to the right person. Therefore, subject headings in business letters can help us to get the reader's attention, to ensure that the letter is passed to the right person quickly. Often, when we put a heading, we then use the word above or above mentioned like this.
I see.
Now let's come to the parts of a letter beginning and ending. We can notice most letters have three parts: opening, body, and close. In an opening, we start a letter with Dear. An opening says why you are writing. Then we write the main message. We also call it body. This gives the details. Next is the close. This usually talks about the future and then ends the letter with Yours faithfully or Yours sincerely, and so on. Now let's look at the letter and find the three parts in each letter.
Dear Mr. Hassan Dave, we are writing to inquire about agents for our products in Bahrain. We are a large manufacturer of radio telephone. At present, we export to Europe and Latin America, but we would like to start exporting to the Arabian Gulf. Your branch in Orlando, Florida, has told us that you may be able to help us. Could you please forward this letter to any companies in Bahrain that might be interested in representing us? We enclosed some of our catalogs. Meanwhile, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any further questions.
What is the beginning of this letter?
In the beginning of the first paragraph, the letter tells us why Robert Wilson is writing.
What's included in the body?
In the body, it tells us what about Hussein Dave and what Jalam wants to know.
What about the clothing?
In the clothes, it writes, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any further questions.
Each part is usually a separate paragraph, but the main message can be more than one paragraph if you are writing about more than one subject. Look at these two letters. Stella, which letter has more than one paragraph in the main message?
We can see Interfrance's letter of the March 18th have 2 paragraphs in the main message.
What is the subject of each paragraph?
The first paragraph answers an Arabian electronics question about the catalog and prices. The second paragraph is about his first coming visit to the Middle East.
Now let's look at the beginning and close in detail one by one. First, how to begin a letter. There are 2 sets of opening. Initiating correspondence and replying to a letter. First, let's look at some ways to begin a letter of initiating. We are writing to inquire about. We are writing in connection with. We are interested in, and we would like to know. Now, if you are answering a letter, you can start. Thank you for your letter of asking if. We have received your letter of inquiring about. How would you start this letter? Now let's see an ending of a letter. Here are some ways to end a letter. I look forward to receiving your reply. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you give some information in the letter, you can close. I hope that this information will help you. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you need any further information. Please feel free to contact me if you have any further questions. Now let's do a practice. Here is a message from a letter. Let's choose a beginning and an ending, then add yours faithfully or sincerely or best wishes with the given information. We can start with thank you for your letter of February 16 concerning Arabian electronics and closes with I look forward to receiving your order. And in the end, uses yours sincerely. Well, today we've learned the layout of business English letter, basic structure of business English letter, and how to write the beginning and closing of a business letter. Thank you for watching. See you next time.